Hi, Liz.
And she is right. Hi, my name's Liz Panton. I'm the third person up here today who stood in the general election for the Party of Women in 2024. I stood in the constituency of Newcastle East and Wall's End. And in Newcastle East and Wall's End, as Kelly mentioned earlier, is the Northern Region Dysphoria Centre. Now that has had a lot of publicity due to a local chap who I don't know if he's here today, Ritchie Herron. And he exposed some of the appalling treatment that's given to these people. Another speaker has mentioned that these people have a mental illness and they need psychiatric help and psychological help. And people who go to that service are being failed by the NHS. I think it's absolutely disgraceful that the NHS is paying for these services, not just the psychiatrists and the psychologists that are not doing their job right, but the endocrinologists and the surgeons. From the very first time that Ritchie went to that service, which is in Walker Gate, the psychiatrist said to him, "Do you want to have the operation?" The very first time that he went there. That is appalling. Every time that he went there, the psychiatrist said, "Do you want that operation?" And he said, "No, no, no, no," again and again. He was a gay man who had put up with a lot of homophobia and internalised that homophobia. And that's what he wanted help with. Every time he went, "Do you want to have the operation?" Eventually, they blackmailed him. They said, the psychiatrist said to him, "If you do not agree to that operation," which cutting off your COCK, "then we will stop your psychotherapy." So he agreed to it simply because it was the only way that he could continue to get psychotherapy. And he said that as he went under the anaesthetic, he thought, "I'm not doing the right thing." When he came out of the anaesthetic, he had been horribly mutilated. He's had loads of repair operations and he'll have to continue to have those operations the rest of his life. And he said, "At 30 years old, I'm incontinent, I'm in terrible pain." Something that you don't think about is when they invert the COCK to produce the false vagina. If you go off the female hormones and try and take male hormones again in order to detransition, the hairs grow back. And he said the pain is appalling. These are monstrous surgeries that are being carried out, and the doctors and surgeons should be thoroughly ashamed. For the women, they are being referred, and I think we might have another Party of Women candidate here, to the Chelsea and Westminster Hospital, where they perform the most grotesque operations on women. It's bad enough they cut off their breasts, but what they do there, because these women feel they cannot be happy unless they can stand up and pee. That is the extent of the madness. They strip the flesh and the skin off their arms. They then take the flesh off their thigh and put that on the arm in order to repair the arm. They roll up the skin off the arm like a sausage roll. They take the urethra and stretch it out, and they sew that sausage onto their groin as a fake penis. And the NHS has invested money to do more and more of these operations. It is like Mengele. It is disgusting. It is appalling that the NHS is mutilating these young women who obviously require counselling and require psychological help. And I think we need to put a stop to it. And that's why I stood for the Party of Women in the constituency where they're referring people for these vile operations.